John, I understand that in the summer of 2015 there was a special conference which you attended to do with this subject, and there was some serendipity about it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it's a good job you remind me of this, Colin. This actually is a wonderful story which happened by chance. So at the end of 2014 I was invited by the Royal Society and the Royal Society of Chemistry to present a talk on spectroscopy of astrophysically relevant molecules, because a conference on, I believe it was something like the 15th of June 2015, was going to take place in London to celebrate, in honor of Harry Kroto, to celebrate 30 years of discovery of fullerenes and Harry Kroto's return to the UK. And I, of course, being an old friend and scientific colleague and collaborator of Harry's, was delighted to accept. Funnily enough, after I accepted, then in January, something like January 2015, we started to do our first experiments on C60+. And the first challenge in this thing, which we were not quite sure how easy it's going to be, was whether we're going to be able to form efficiently the C60+ helium complexes, because C60+ has lots of internal energy and it's not quite sure how you can easily cool all the internal degrees of freedom. So in the first few months we were looking at the formation of C60+ helium, and this worked like a dream, provided that the temperature of the ion trap was low enough. And this indeed was some of the technology developments which were required for us ultimately to be successful. As I realize now in retrospect, it really requires these low temperatures of something like 3.5 Kelvin, 4 Kelvin. So that was a thing, and after we formed this thing, I had a personal distraction that I had to have, something like with cars, something like 1,000 kilometer service, wear and tear. So I had to go to hospital, and I decided in the short term to go to hospital to have it done as soon as possible, so that I don't like delaying these things. So something like middle of March, I had to go to hospital, and after 1 week, after the repair was successfully performed, I got somewhat bored. I was told to stay still, do not go to university, do not get excited, and do not get in your usual pattern of discussions with students and PhD students and exciting, take it easy. Well, I sort of did, but I did send an email to my group, in particular Dr. Ewan Campbell, this very talented postdoc who's been doing the experiments, to ask how he was getting on with the experiment with the C60+ and the helium, and he very modestly wrote back, "John, we have the spectrum of C60+, we have the absorption, and the absorptions are exactly the same wavelength as the astronomical measurements, so that there is really no doubt that this is the spectrum of C60+. So of course I no longer needed any stimulants or medicine to keep my pain away, and I said, "Ewan, send me all the stuff, we're going to write an article on this on Nature immediately." So the second week of my rehabilitation I actually wrote a draft of this paper. They kept me distracted from other things and kept me busy, and after we wrote it and after it was accepted by Nature, I informed Harry Kroto about this thing, about the fact that the C60+ is in the diffuse interstellar medium, and he was really up in the moon, and this has made me terribly happy, because particularly of one personal statement which I will treasure. He said, "John, I never thought I would live long enough to see this." So as a friend, this was something very important to me. So then came the conference in London in June, and I presented the results at this conference. I mean, Harry had already known about it, but now I could sort of present it in detail, because it was due to be published in Nature actually the next day. This is really by chance. I mean, you couldn't have better timing than that. So all hell broke loose, and I was really delighted that I was able to present this to Harry at his conference on his return to the UK on the day basically of the publication of the article. Purely by chance. Wonderful. Couldn't have been better than that.
So had you written a book, you'd have said, right, this is the happy ending that I'm going to produce.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. Oh, thank you, John, very much. That was really, really fascinating.